guys? Travis Fowler, Hark Rider, Four Corner Post, back with you this week for a new edition of BWS, Best Wrestling Show of the Week. Let's go ahead and jump right into the actions that took place on this week's editions of professional wrestling. First, Monday Night Raw started with Cody Rhodes' promo, which in my opinion was a really great promo. Don't care if it was scripted or not, it doesn't matter to me. The promo had real passion behind it, and honestly, I can't speak for everybody, but honestly, I really do feel like this just felt like home for Cody. I know that over the years, he's been outspoken about the WWE. He was very outspoken about how they worked when he left, and then when he started AEW and how adamant he was that he would be at AEW for life, at least when it came to career. But something just seems to fit with him in WWE, honestly. It's definitely a homecoming, and I feel it's just right for him. And then, of course, they capped off that segment with the handshake with him and Seth, which, looking at it as a whole, I actually think Seth and Cody had the best match at WrestleMania this year. It was a fun night one, and I think that was the best match of night one to honestly be placed perfectly right in the middle of the card to kind of give us a great wrestling match. And then, of course, the main event saw Austin and Owens go from the KO show segment into a no-holds-barred match, which was really fun. Speaking of Kevin Owens, we saw Kevin Owens come out, and then he was met with a return/debut of, it's so weird that that's Elias without the beard. It's just weird. No, the hair was shorter, no beard, and because of that, he is now claiming to be the little brother of Elias. This is Ezekiel. So this is actually going to be interesting. I'm kind of interested to see how this whole thing turns out. It was a nice little debut/return, so let's see how this ends up going and if they play off this gimmick as like a split personality thing, which I think would be fun. We also saw the debut, finally, after however many weeks that we saw he was coming to Raw, he finally showed up, Veer Mahan, and definitely made an impact by beating up the Mysterios on night one. And then the main event segment was the first look at the undisputed WWE Universal Champion, Roman Reigns. Not going to really spend too much time on this Raw thing because it was only just to set up what is next, quote unquote, for Roman Reigns, with him now being that champion level. He has got nothing to do at this moment. So SmackDown was really being promoted as what is he going to do next? And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Now let's move into Dynamite, which was really a one-match show. Yes, it was a fun show overall, but there was a couple of spots in there what I felt like was just kind of like, nah, okay, it's nothing new or fresh. One thing that was new or fresh was the debut of Samoa Joe. He is the first man to qualify for the Owen Hart tournament coming up next month, which is cool. It's also going to be interesting to see how he's handled this upcoming week with the TV title shot. Honestly, can't wait to see that with him and Minoru Suzuki. Then it was talking about Adam Cole and Adam Page's. I guess it's going to be their blow-off match, which of all things is going to take place on a Rampage next week. And it was announced that it'll be a Texas Death Match. Okay, well, that's a way, I guess, to bring eyes onto Rampage. We'll see if it ends up working. And then we saw something that is kind of why I'm a little mad towards the whole Dynamite show. It has to be the whole Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy taking on Butcher and Blade in a tables match. Why does it have to be a tables match? It didn't need to be, honestly. I mean, don't overplay these things. It's why people are complaining about them bleeding so much on AEW and why it gets boring and stale after a while. So don't repeat the same match over and over with the same guys over and over, because then it does get to the point where we're just like, okay, we've seen this now. But one thing that people did look forward to seeing again was the Bucks versus FTR2, and this did live up to the hype. In my opinion, it wasn't better than what the Briscoes and FTR was from Supercard of Honor, which if you haven't seen it, I beg and urge you to go and check it out as soon as possible. Awesome tag team match. Probably my favorite tag team match of the last 5 years. But anyways, back to FTR and the Bucks. Great match, great storytelling, loved it. It was indeed a one-match show in my opinion. Yes, you had a gimmick match that was in there for the tables match. This was a 2 titles on the line match, and it lived up to the hype in my opinion, because it was that type of match that you would expect from those two teams, and it was pulled off again to perfection. So kudos to both teams. Great way to end Dynamite. Going into SmackDown, we start off with a Ronda Rousey Charlotte Flair program. That was whatever, honestly. We all know how I feel about that. I'm glad Charlotte actually won at Mania, but still doesn't really interest me a whole lot. Ronda's just kind of boring me as it is. Moving on to a debut for two guys, we saw the newly named Ludwig Kaiser, which I know I'm going to kind of maybe spark some debate here. I actually don't have a problem with his name. I really don't see why they had to change his name, but I guess for whatever reason they do now that they're coming up to the main roster. Whatever, but honestly, Ludwig wasn't too terrible. At least I feel like his character and persona kind of fits it for what they're going to go for. Kaiser is kind of like a strong name to go with it, so yeah. I still don't feel that way about Gunter, and it is pronounced Gunter, not Gunther. But everybody still, like myself, we would just still prefer Walter, just because he had already made a name for himself in WWE. I don't understand why they decided to choose to rename him. But either way, he debuted. He looks in great shape. Both guys do. I'm just kind of sitting here also wondering, where's Fabian Eichner? Like, he's the last part of Imperium. We need that on the main roster. I like Imperium. Of course, we saw other things take place on SmackDown as well. The whole Xavier Woods and the roll-up being his finisher. If that's the case, okay, that's questionable storytelling. But calling it the backwoods is funny to me, and that's the only reason I'm really bringing it up. But hey, you know, I guess go with it. You just see how it ends up landing. Also over on SmackDown, we saw Baron Corbin, or Happy Corbin, and Madcap Moss break off their friendship. And it all makes sense. It actually might be an interesting story. If this also means we kind of get old Baron Corbin back, I'm good with that. I'd like to see that. Madcap Moss breaking out on his own, and it started over the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal trophy. Mouthful just then. But I like how they're going back to that for this story. Let's see where it goes. And then finally, the main event segment, again, was what's next for Roman Reigns. Like I said, they hyped it up on Raw, and then this is where the payoff was supposed to be. And of all things, it's going to Shinsuke Nakamura. Like, I'm actually really surprised, and I think this could be a fun feud. I know that things didn't work out between the Usos and Nakamura and Boogs because of what happened at WrestleMania with Boogs' injury, but I think this is kind of still a cool way to keep that storyline fresh, and Nakamura is kind of defending his fallen partner, but now he's going after the tribal chief. That's real fun. I look forward to seeing where that goes, but the main story of it was how the Usos, who did just compete over on Raw on Monday as well, they now have a tag title shot against RK Bro. So this is part of the whole, hey, let's make us, the Bloodline, be the top faction by taking all the titles. In my opinion, if this is the route they're going to go, they should do this. I like the idea of one solidary champion for the major titles now. You can keep the two secondary titles on each show, like the US title is an exclusive title to Raw, the Intercontinental is exclusive to SmackDown. I think that's kind of fun because that also brings a merit of importance to each title, brings their value up a little bit. So I think that would be fun to still keep those two titles separate. But the two major titles for the men's division and then the women's division, like, merge them. I think it'd be a fun idea. This could be a way you could also end the brand split if you wanted to. But if you don't want to do that, yeah, keep them separate and just merge the main titles. But please stick to saying that if Survivor Series is the one night a year Raw and SmackDown go head to head, please live up to that and show how hypocritical you guys are this year. But that's in the future. Anyway, for the three shows, the reason why I didn't include Impact Wrestling was because it was basically a recap of what went on at the multiverse of matches. And that to me is more of just a glorified commercial for another show, which yes, they did offer one free full match from that show, but it still just makes me want to go watch the actual show. So that's why Impact was not mentioned in regards to a full show, was because it's more of recap. But of the three shows we did get, I would have to say, for a storyline purpose, that one show was better than the other, but overall, I was entertained more thoroughly by AEW Dynamite, honestly. It was really a tight race because that or SmackDown was really close to getting my victory, but Dynamite still prevailed because of that one match at the end. FTR and Bucks had me entertained and sold the whole time. I enjoyed it, and they are the ones that pick up the W this week. What did you think of this week's wrestling? Did Dynamite have the best show? Let me know if they did, or if not, which one did, down in that comment section below. Also, make sure you subscribe if you haven't to the channel. Make sure you give this video a like as well. And after you share this video, don't forget that your bell notification needs to be on so that you're notified every time we upload a new video to the channel. As always, I'm Travis Fowler, Hark Rider, and I will see you again next week.